alaikum. Welcome to day 2 of the second International Marketing Conference here at the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Day 1 brought together some of the most renowned, experienced, and accomplished marketing professionals who graced us with their presence. It has been a truly enthralling journey so far. To begin the session for today, we have scheduled a panel discussion on the subject, Marketing in Real Time. Needless to say, this session, like the ones before it, will involve and engage the very best of the 21st century marketeers. According to Richard Fouts of Gartner, real-time marketing disrupts the organization while putting competitors on the defense. But what is real-time marketing? Real-time marketing occurs when a brand is readily available for an ever-demanding, savvy consumer. It is a way of thinking and a philosophy which requires businesses to meet the demands of a dynamic digital world. As it relates to online media, it entails the convergence of online content production and its distribution. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the first panel discussion for the day, which would shed light on marketing in real time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 esteemed personalities who will be a part of this discussion on real-time marketing. Our first guest is a well-versed individual in broadcast, new media, and mobile business models. He has managed many noted brands, including Pepsi, Bata, Nestle, Citibank, BMW, and has executed award-winning campaigns for Pepsi and Bata. He has also been the Chief Operating Officer for the Jio Network. Currently, he is the Strategy and Planning Director for the Jung Group as he ventures to look beyond the traditional media and strives to further develop the industry. Please put your hands together for none other than Mr. Faisal Sherjan. Our second guest is currently working as the brand manager for Navitas. After studying from the Darden School of Business from the University of Virginia, he has also been a part of the Atlantic Council in the United States. He has been associated with firms like Ogilvy, Standard Chartered, and was also actively involved in the launch of Mobiling Pakistan. Being a proud founder and editor of the Desi Design, he has used the power of expression to highlight branding and advertising in today's world. Please welcome Mr. Najwat Rahman. Our next esteemed guest is Ms. Salma Jaffrey, the CEO of WordPL, a content marketing and social media forum. Ms. Jaffrey has developed online course designs and pedagogical instructional strategies which involved working closely with writers, editors, and content matter experts. She is one of those few individuals who has implemented resource sharing and streamlined process flow between the Austin and Pakistan offices. From planning various product launches and developing content for corporate websites to presenting white papers at telecom conferences, she has done it all. Please welcome Ms. Salma Jaffrey. Moving on, we have with us the head of operations from the brand crew, Mr. Ejaz Asi. Mr. Ejaz has interests in experience design, social web, UBComp, and user-centered design. He also enjoys studying the intersection of culture, technology, and design. From being the founder of an online magazine, Erudition, and web developer at the IndusMart, he has worked and earned his way to the very top. His associations with projects like Visa International and EMI Pakistan make his work speak for itself. A huge round of applause for Mr. Ejaz Asi. Lastly, we are very proud to have on this panel a man who has several years of hardcore marketing and branding experience in a diversified set of businesses. He is currently the lead consultant and corporate trainer for the brand consultants. Please welcome Mr. Muntazir Haider. Our moderator for this panel discussion on real-time marketing is a person who has been associated with public relations, marketing and communications, social media, event management, and brand activation in a diversified range of businesses. She is the former project manager of the digital front at M Holding and is currently a freelance consultant for marketing and communications. Please welcome the moderator for our panel discussion on real-time marketing, Ms. Samra Muslim.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yesterday, we had a fantastic session here, and Kashif was sitting in the audience, and we had a lot of questions raised about real-time medias, real-time platforms, real-time marketing, real-time communications, and everything that's happening in the real-time, because there were people and there were skeptics who say it doesn't really work. As kind sort of master of the ceremonies have told us, real-time marketing, to those who do not know, to those who are just coming in have kind of missed it, real-time marketing is whatever is happening in the real time. It's happening right now, and how a brand or a product is leveraging it, communicating around it, or using it to their benefit, and to get their word out, to get their name out. And when that is happening, that's real-time marketing. So me taking a picture of all of you, or me taking a selfie of all of us, and putting it out there on Instagram, maybe on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, that's all real-time marketing happening for this conference. And that's the world we live in. The question maybe, and I was having a conversation with Ijaz recently, and the question maybe is not what media should we pick up. The question maybe now is, where is the audience? So it comes in from the discussion yesterday, where we're talking about the millennials, all of you of this world, which is maybe the majority of the audience of this country. The younger audience, which, as Dr. Huma said yesterday, that's the future audience of Pakistan. And that all of the audience maybe is not on television, or maybe not on the traditional media. Maybe they are. Let's ask this question, because I have this really diverse range of people sitting out here on this table and on this stage, and wide knowledge, and then there's all of you with all your knowledge. So let's look at that, and let's try and answer that question: is real-time marketing needed? Maybe some of the questions that were raised yesterday, like is going digital just a fashionable trend for brands, or is it really logical? That was one of the questions that were raised yesterday, and let's try and answer that. Is that the way to go? Can there be a formula to real-time marketing? Is there a formula? Do we need a formula for real-time marketing? Or is the market so diverse and so insanely quick and rapid that we don't need a formula, but we need to know what to do? Is millennial even on the traditional platforms? Like Umar Abdeen raised that question, and I think that's a very valid question. That when we're marketing to the millennials, when we're marketing to the people who is maybe not even looking at that screen, maybe they're looking at this screen, then why are we marketing to them on that other screen? They're not there. And then, Jameel pointed out that their brand, which is a mass media brand like McDonald's, for them, they need to go on traditional platforms. But please understand that when we're talking about real-time marketing, we're not dissing away the traditional platforms. At no point in this discussion, if we're going to be too digital heavy, are we saying traditional platforms need to be murdered, and let's just break that TV down and throw all those newspapers away. But we're saying there is a need to go into these alternative platforms as well, and why? So, I'm going to throw the first question here to Faisal Chirja, and the question that I have is, does real-time marketing make any sense in a market like Pakistan? We have skeptics yesterday who actually pointed out that TV is cheaper in Pakistan, for example. Technology is in its infancy. 3G तो अभी बिड हुआ है, 4G की बातें हो रही हैं and stuff like that. तो हम कहाँ रियल टाइम मार्केटिंग की बातें करने बैठ गए यहाँ पे पागलों की तरह. And then consumer भी हमारा we're sitting with a literacy of 30% based on the fact that we can sign our names. So that's not really a literate audience. And then given that sort of an audience psyche in the masses C, D, E out there, why are we talking about real-time marketing and technology-driven marketing? Faisal.
I think, Samra, what happens is whenever a new medium makes its advent or the landscape starts to change, people who are entrenched in a certain mindset tend to come up with all these examples. I just have a few things to say on this, and I'll say it in numbers. Pakistan is the 4th largest in terms of SMS traffic in the world. right? And that's counting China, India, Philippines, and Pakistan. Philippines, they do everything on their mobiles. But if you look at it, we are the fourth largest in terms of SMS traffic. Now, SMS traffic by definition means I have to have the ability to read and write, right? I have to type something in, or I have to be able to read whatever has arrived on my screen. 350 billion messages went out in 2012. 350 billion, right? Just do the numbers and see how many of those messages went out every day. The other thing is 85% of these messages was in the Roman language, Roman alphabet, which means Urdu written in phonetic English, which also means that not only are our illiterate masses sending SMSs, they're doing it in English, right? So what happens is that people find their own equilibrium. They become comfortable with technology to the extent that they need to be comfortable. If you look at our demographics, we have an increasingly young population, 60% below the age of 30. Right? You think that they will not take to this technology? You think they do not have mobile phones? The first thing they do want as they come of age is a mobile phone. It's basically to communicate, it's basically be able to stay in touch, to stay informed, all these things happen. When we talk about marketing, basically what we are talking about is, first and foremost, knowing your customer. No medium that I know of, and I've been in television for almost 25 years, I've been in advertising for a number of years, there is not one single medium that gives you the kind of insights that this mobile phone that you carry with you gives. 40 million people in Pakistan have purchased something on their mobiles. 40 million people in Pakistan have purchased things on their mobiles, right? Instantaneous gratification, from setting ringback tones to subscribing to a service to any of these things. Now, these companies who are selling this stuff have tremendous insight into who their customers are. They know at what time they buy things. They know when they buy things. They know the pattern at which they buy things. Now start to extrapolate that into the brand space. And then you see what the opportunity is in terms of digital real-time marketing, which actually is marketing on your mobiles. Because this is the one medium that tells you who your customer is. Does any marketer need anything more than that?
That basically means that the numbers, the dynamics have changed and the audience has changed. So what you are saying now, that the whole myth about technology and the whole myth about us not being ready for real-time marketing is really just a myth?
Yeah, just look at the numbers. I mean, 11 million people on Facebook already, right? Yeah. Coming up close to about 1.5, 1.6 million on Twitter. Right? Look at the number of people who have already gone online and the ones who are going online. I mean, I recently met one of the major mobile brand sellers. 350,000 smartphones are being sold every month. 350,000. By the end of this year, by the beginning of 2015, we expect 40% of users in Pakistan to have smartphones in their hands. Right? So this changing landscape is something that needs to be understood. I was also thinking, in terms of media, the first television advert that ever ran was in 1941 in one of the Super Bowl games. And the first ad that ran on television was actually just a pattern, a test pattern with a small little clock at the bottom for Buluva. Because nobody understood what to do. They didn't know what to do on the medium. That's exactly what's happening with the digital mediums. People do not know what to do. And because they do not know what to do, they want to step back and say, this is not going to work. We hear things about, ROI. Excuse me, how do you measure ROI in reality from a television rating? What does a television rating really mean? The television was switched on, somebody was sitting in front of it. Were they looking at the screen? Sorry, we don't know. Were they listening to what is being said? Sorry, we don't know again. But when a message arrives on a mobile phone, right, or you click on something on a website, you actually are opting in as a customer, as a consumer. You're actually making a decision. That's the first point of your conversation with the brand that starts from there. So it's about brand conversations now, not simply about putting a message out and saying, hopefully somebody will listen to this, hopefully they'll go out and they'll try it, and hopefully they will like it. Right? So before that hopeful starts, in a digital world, you begin with starting with the opt-in. Because every time you click on something, you're actually showing your inclination to to have a look at it. You delve deeper, you respond, you have a conversation. That conversation turns into a relationship with the brand. Does a marketer need anything more than that?
I don't think so, but let's, I'm going to ask this question from Muntazir, sitting right next to me, that let's look at the first myth that I'm going to hold your thought on the numbers and the analytics and the conversation, and we're going to come back to that. But Muntazir, I have a question from you that can't, because of your diverse experience, can't digital coexist with traditional, and how? How do you feel with your experience, can that sort of happen?
Yes, actually digital should exist in collaboration with the traditional media, because you cannot just count out the newspapers and everything, especially in an environment such as Pakistan, because likewise we see brands used to promote themselves on YouTube, and what happened overnight? YouTube was just shut down. Similarly, if Facebook and digital medias are shut down overnight, if someday the government decides that the SMS packages are leading to terrorism, they might decide on shutting them down or having them filtered. And still we have a lot of spam controls and stuff going on. PEMRA and PTA have got a lot of spam things going on. They're yeah.
But here I'm going to ask you a question. Look at what's happened to Jio. TV ke saath bhi to ho sakta hai.
TV ke saath ho sakta hai, that's absolutely correct. But again, see, there is a lot of diversification available in that.
Okay.
Okay, having said that does not mean I'm an advocate for the traditional media. I'm a strong believer of digital media, and the way it's progressing, it has made a huge impact. Brands are being created online, and brands are moving on online, and they are growing, not just in the infancy stage. We have examples like Shahzeb Saeed in front of us, who started primarily selling online. He started off with a warehouse at the back of his house, and from there onwards he grew to a couple of outlets today, one in Zamzama, the other in one of the niche malls, which is the Ocean Mall. So you see, brands are using social media, brands are using digital media as standalone medium. However, for big brands, they have to exist on the, the billboards and the newspapers and all. The primary thing that I want to emphasize on is the fact that digital media is here. It's not going anywhere. There are no myths associated with it. It is here. It will stay here. And it's just growing. Likewise, numbers you just mentioned, these numbers will just keep growing. You talk about Facebook, you talk about Twitter, you talk about LinkedIn, you talk about any other channel. The numbers will keep growing. And it has gradually become a very substantial part of the marketing strategies. When we started off Facebook with Pizza Hut a while back, Pizza Hut was one of the first brands to bring in social media in Pakistan. When we started off with Pizza Hut, the main concern was, the interaction available on the medium, which wasn't there in the conventional medium. Now we have come this far in the past 4 to 5 years that consumer is feeling powerful because of that brand. Now, if consumer holds to those particular channels which provide him the power, how can you just say that, these will wipe out or these are myths or anything? Brands have to spend on these mediums. Customers holding on. Whenever you feel powerful in some of your comfort zone, you hold on to that. Similarly, customers will also hold on to this. You have to start spending on them if you haven't. And if you're spending, you have to spend a wider amount on it.
Is it about the amount, or is it about the right usage of the medium?
Of course.
And how can that be done? Do you have some examples maybe that you can share with our audience and our live stream listeners as well, that, how can this coexistence happen? I know Najmat has an example, and I'm going to come to that in a bit, but from your experience of real case studies that have happened, because lack of case studies is also one of the things that we keep on harping about in our lives as marketeers.
See, there is no standard formula altogether that you have to spend 10% of your budget on digital media or 15% or 20% or 20%. There is no fixed formula whatsoever. It all depends on your customer base. How widespread is your customer base? Some businesses spend just 100,000 rupees on Facebook and they generate good amount of leads. The others spend millions of dollars and yet they're not able to generate leads. They have some other motives. So at the end of the day, I believe it strongly depends on your strategy and what you want to get out of your social media. Your aim could be having customer interaction, engaging the customer, getting the customer feedback, generating leads, generating your ROI. All that stuff could be part of your strategy, depending on one, your strategy, two, where your customer lies. If your customer is not on the social media, then going on social media is useless. You might as well go to SMS marketing. Whereas if your customer is stuck to Facebook, like majority of us are, checking in and posting stuff, then you have to be on Facebook. You have to make a sufficient contribution. For example, when we started off with Pizza Hut, what we did was we took the concept of BTL activity, the below the line activities, we took it online. And how we took it online was, just a very simple example. We used to upload the vouchers on Facebook. So people would print it out, and from that we would get a lot of conclusions. Firstly, how many viewed that voucher? How many downloaded that voucher? How many commented? How many expressions were there? How many printouts were taken? How many were actually realized? So all this stuff actually ends up to the success of digital media. No medium, let it be television, let it be ATL, let it be BTL, you cannot determine your success. On the digital platforms, you can actually determine your success.
And with that thought of getting the success measured on digital much more viably in terms of final bottom line sales, I'm going to actually ask Najwat Rahman to talk about a small case study that they actually, he's also behind this website. I don't know how many people have seen it, Desi Design if I'm not wrong, and he actually rebranded IBA. And I recalled it recently that when I first time saw that website, I actually thought IBA has rebranded itself. And for 2 minutes, I was just like, oh, wow, what a cool logo IBA has. And then finally, when I hit the bottom of that entire thread of post, I realized, oh, it's just a proposed rebranding. But tell us a bit about that, because that was an entire digital thing that kind of went viral. And there is a brand right here where we're sitting, IBA, and they can actually leverage it. So give us your insights on what you did and how can it further be taken to the next level.
Absolutely. Thank you, Samra. First of all, Assalamu alaikum everyone for listening to us. I have to kind of get something out of the way. I feel really weird sitting here because I just graduated 2 years back from here, and my friends are sitting here doing their MBA, and my teachers like Mr. Nishat and Miss Yasmin are sitting here. So I feel a little weird talking about कि अच्छा ये नहीं है ये है और ये नहीं है ये है, giving my 2 cents when people like them are sitting here.
Don't feel overwhelmed. We're the millennials, okay?
Yeah, so that's something that needed to be thrown out of the way. With that said, I think the focus of my work is on brand, and with all of the discussion that we've had up till now, we've talked about marketing and कि आपको सोशल मीडिया पे जाना चाहिए कि नहीं जाना चाहिए, या आपको फेसबुक शुरू करना चाहिए या ट्विटर शुरू करना चाहिए, यूट्यूब शुरू करना चाहिए, लिंक्डइन शुरू करना चाहिए. I think we have to step back. Before talking about anything, we have to step back and look at what our brand stands for. In today's world, something is being challenged, and that something really forms the core of business and marketing and advertising, and that something is profit motive. Now, in the world of brand today, in the contemporary world today, the profit motive is being challenged by something called the purpose motive. So brands have purpose. They're not driven by profits के इस साल 50,000 billion trillion dollars कमाने, but they're driven by something called a purpose. For example, great companies today, great brands today, like Facebook, they have a purpose. They're not driven by the profit motive. They're driven by the purpose motive, and their purpose is to connect the world's population, right? And another example is Google. They're not driven by money. They make boatloads of money. That's a fact. But they're not driven by the profit motive. They're driven by something that is their purpose, and their purpose is to organize the world's information. So the point of this, what I've said, is we have to, whenever we're talking about marketing and advertising and business, we have to kind of step back before jumping right into marketing and advertising and sales. We have to step back and take a look at what our brand stands for and what our brand purpose is, right? That brand purpose is really the driver of growth and the driver of what your consumers see in your business, in your offering. So that purpose is very, very important, much more important than the profit motive, dare I say that. So I think for any successful marketing effort or any successful branding or sales or advertising effort, you have to have a crystal clear understanding of what your brand purpose is. With that said, Samra pointed out that I am part of a magazine, an online magazine that talks about issues in branding and advertising and design and marketing in Pakistan. So this magazine is called The Desi Design. It's just a year old, but it is fairly popular, and I'm sure a few of us here have heard of the magazine. Samra has heard of the magazine. So what I'm trying to say is that with my efforts, I'm trying to instill the concept of brand purpose into Pakistani businesses, and the example that Samra was talking about, rebranding IBA, that was also an offshoot of my work. So the brand idea for IBA in that project, that was the rebranding. If I could ask someone if we could get something over there, if I could show the project to the audience, that'll be great. If we can have that. So the brand purpose was the place of possibilities for IBA. The brand talked about that IBA is really the place where dreams happen, dreams come true, people realize their dreams, they're driven by their motivation, and that was the brand purpose. And that brand purpose really drives everything that a company or a brand or a business or anything, an institution does. So that brand purpose is extremely important for everyone, including us all, as individuals. We all have to have a brand purpose in life, and that is something that will help us achieve success in life, after life maybe too. So the brand purpose is really the key to whatever we do in marketing and in life, really. So that, I think, really is my 2 cents, if I could say that. If I could have, I'll just come there and...
Is it coming up? Okay.
Yeah, we'll just show you the project, and then we can kind of go through it. Just give me a second.
This light is a little overwhelming. We'll ask you to bear with us for a few minutes while Najwat's project goes up.
Samra, while he sets it up, let me share a real...
I was going to say that. I know Faisal
I'll share a real business case with you. Right? In 2012 February, one of my counterparts in the Junk Group came to me and said, we have a problem. Right? He was running, he runs JioSuper, which is our sports channel. He did not have rights to any international cricket for the whole year, more or less. So he said, what do we do? How do I maintain my ratings? So I said, you have a Facebook page? He said, yes. I said, how many people do you have on it? He said about, at that time, I think it was around 15,000. I said, let's use that. And he said, what do we do? I said, what we do is real-time admin. Every time you have something running, and we ran things like tape ball cricket, we ran things like, the Ramzan tournament. We got whatever we had, and we started talking to people on the Facebook page. They now have 1.2 million people on their Facebook page. Their ratings stayed where they were in 2012. They never fell. 2012 and 2013 were profitable years for them, right? Even though they did not have any international cricket that they could get rights to. The last year, in fact, in December, they did manage to get rights to the Pakistan-Sri Lanka series in the UAE. We launched, on the 11th of December, we launched a mobile application on which you could watch those matches live. We today have 400,000 people watching cricket live on their mobiles through JioSuper's application. The second screen is a reality in our lives now. We watch TV and we have our mobiles with us. We go watch a movie, we do not switch off our mobiles, we put it on silent. If a message drops in, we take a look at it, right? So we've got to understand what's happening around us. We've got to understand where our audiences are. We've got to understand how they're behaving.
And JioSuper is a TV channel.
Yeah.
So they're like a channel itself for marketing itself, where you're going and putting your ads, is actually using digital to market themselves.
We do not launch any drama now without a presence on social media. We very actively engage people on social media for comment, for analysis. We actively listen to what they're saying, right? Because we have to. And that helps us understand more about what they want.
And even right now, I've heard the Geo online traffic has gone up tremendously since we can't watch it on our cable operators.
Yeah,
TV.
we'll get blamed for that too. This is what they did it.
So the digital world is thriving because you can't watch Geo on your TVs.
Absolutely.
So there's that. Najwa, do you want to give your example now?
So, guys, if you could have the tissue box out of the way, that'll be great. Acha ji. So, this is our website that I was talking about, the Desi Design. It's an online magazine. So, this project here, it's about rebranding IBA, reimagining IBA's brand purpose, and really reimagining IBA's DNA and what it stands for. So we'll need someone to kind of scroll up and down. Yeah. So this project was basically inspired by a drive. I'm an IBA alumni, so I thought that the IBA brand, for example, the logo, the communication that goes out, does not necessarily reflect the dynamism and the greatness that this institution is. It's legendary, but somehow the brand kind of falls short on kind of, you know, capturing that essence. So that was like the frame that I was working with. The Desi Design team, kind of went down and tried to go back to the drawing board and saw what IBA could really mean, what IBA was really about.
And this is like creating a backstory behind rebranding itself.
Exactly. So that right there, just next to Ejaz's shadow is the new logo for IBA.
Oh, that one, the red one?
The red one. And if you could scroll a little down. Yeah, so just stop right there. So this is a new logo that we designed for IBA, and the driving force was, again, the brand purpose, the place for possibilities. So हम सारे इधर बैठे हुए हैं स्टूडेंट्स, वी कम हियर टू रियलाइज अवर ड्रीम्स. हम इधर आते हैं, बहुत ही मुश्किल किस्म का आपका एंट्रेंस टेस्ट होता है, आप आ जाते हैं एंड यू फील ऑल एनर्जाइज कि IB में दाखिला हो गया है, एंड यू नो यू फील सो गुड अबाउट योरसेल्व्स, एंड व्हेन यू कम हियर यू फील लाइक यू पार्ट ऑफ अ you know, privileged group, which is true. And you come here to actually rub shoulders with some of the greatest faculty that we have in this institution, and also with your own classmates and, you know, your seniors. And all of this leads towards making possibilities happen.
And one of the, and I'm sorry I'm going to cut you here because of essence of time, and also coming back on topic, is that one of the purpose of this is that you don't know where your brand conversations are happening. You don't know what conversations are happening for your brand out there. And as a brand, and can we have this? Yeah, thank you so much. I owe you forever, my eyesight. So
I'm really sorry for subjecting everyone's eyes to the projector.
It's just the five of us.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
So, you know, the point is the conversations for your brand are happening out there. And you as a brand manager or as a marketer need to make sure that those conversations need to be kept a check on, and maybe see which of those conversations make sense for you to sort of piggyback on, or sort of newsjack, as we call them in our content marketing world. And that's where I'm going to pass this a question off to Salma, that, like, you know, how you have tons of examples. You're a content marketing person, and there's situations of newsjacking, there's constant situations of hashtag marketing, and all these things that we talk about, which are like millennial jargons or sort of millennial marketing jargons, but they're real life things that are happening. And before I give it to Salma, I'm just going to ask you by the raise of your hands, how many of you have seen the Oscar selfie? Just a quick raise of hands. We've all seen it, right? And Salma, what was that?
Hi, thanks, Samra. So I just want to make like a quick distinction between some of the terminologies that Samra has just thrown out at us right now, right? So there's newsjacking, and there's obviously the topic of discussion, real-time marketing. So, so what's newsjacking? Let's start with that. I mean, is it like hijacking or carjacking, right? So
it's something bad and evil.
It's something bad and evil. So again, can I ask for a show of hands of how many people know it, understand newsjacking? Great.
Hijacking?
Just the panelists.
Hijacking? Okay, at least they know hijacking. That's a start.
So anyway, this term is supposed to have positive connotations for a brand. It was popularized by an author called David Meerman Scott a few years ago, and what the term essentially means is taking a news story, any happening, typically breaking news story, and inserting your brand in a meaningful way into the conversation. Now, there are examples of it going horribly wrong, and there are examples of it being done wonderfully well. So let me give you some of the bad examples first. So there's a natural disaster, and some brand says, you know what, all the people whose houses have been broken, come to us, we'll give you like a 20% discount on clothes. That's what American Apparel did. That's a bad example of newsjacking because it's insensitive, right? A good example of newsjacking was done by this Australian insurance company who said that when President Obama visited Australia like a few years ago, and they said, you know what, Obama's insured in Australia against any kangaroos jumping on him. He was like, what? That's so random, so weird. And what happens is that when reporters are looking for a story angle on a visit, on something that's happening in the news, and they want to present a unique angle, something interesting, a story that's going to go the distance, the story that people are going to actually talk about, that's when that insurance company got millions of hits and millions of mentions on front page newspapers because of how they inserted their little quirky insurance bit into his visit, which was tied in perfectly well with, promoting the tourism industry and promoting their own industry of Australia. So now I want to use some local examples as well. And before I get to the local examples, I want to make a distinction between what newsjacking is and what real-time marketing is, right? And there's a very, very important difference between these two. So newsjacking can also be called trendjacking. Something's happening, breaking news, you hop on trend, you somehow figure out a nice creative way of inserting your brand into that story, and voila, front page, you're getting hits from everywhere, and it's like, marketing nirvana all of a sudden, right? But real-time marketing is actually more substantial. So if we were to make like a Venn diagram, so newsjacking would be a subset of real-time, right? And so what real-time marketing really does is that it develops themes around your brand, right? So I want to use an example of a brand that I saw, I think, last year during the elections, actually. The brand was Dalda. And when you think of Dalda, can I get somebody from the audience to answer? What themes do you normally think about? Right. All right, so I hear mom, right? Mamta. All right, great. So they did something really cool. I don't know if it really worked or not, but the theory behind it was that since our brand is so related to moms, and since last year elections were in May, it was really close to Mother's Day, so what they did was they tried to marry the two concepts, right? They tried to promote mothers as well as the motherland, which I thought was a really, really interesting twist on how to develop real-time marketing with the right themes that your brand is either already known for or that you wish to be known for, right? So that's an example of a local brand doing real-time marketing pretty good, pretty well. There are also bad examples as well, but let's talk about the 4G, 3G, I don't know, fiasco, fantabulous stuff, what's happening. So when 4G came out and when 3G was announced and everything, so everyone sort of jumped on Warid. Bash them, right? There was like this entire social media bashing of Warid going on. And so I decided to check out their Twitter stream, yesterday, the day before, today, see how are they responding to this bashing that's going on. And especially how are they responding in relation to the other brands, right? And what I saw was they're responding really, really well. They're answering every single person who is reaching out to them, right? They're answering everybody. they're reassuring. I saw one of Samra's tweets in there as well. She was like, what are you guys going to do?
Actually, honestly, we weren't even using the hashtag. We just had the word Warid in our tweet. So they're really going and picking up the words and they're real-time responding back to you, which is a very proactive and a nice approach from a brand.
It doesn't really matter if you have the solution. That's what it's telling me. It doesn't really matter if you have the solution as long as you are participating in the conversation. As consumers, that's what we want to see. You know, when I tweet about my ISP service being horrible, I want them to be out there listening, which brings me back to the original question that Samra asked about social monitoring. And what Mr. Sherjan was also saying about, you know, being on conversation. And I think the backstory to that is that you really need to have your social monitoring tools down. You really need to make use of the technology because it's available, and some of it is even free and cheap, to understand where the conversations are happening for your brand. Where are you being mentioned? Is it on some Pakistani forum? Is it on some mainstream site like Facebook? Is it on, I don't know, maybe Instagram or someplace? Where are those conversations happening? The tools and technology exist right now for social monitoring to take place, and that really needs to be the backbone of your real-time marketing efforts. So you need to know where the conversations are happening, and you need to know what themes vibe with your brand. Those are just two basic fundamentals that need to be in place.
Okay, and that is like the crux. I think social listening is where we are heading towards, where we're talking about listening to the end user, listening to a consumer, listening to the one who's actually going and making that purchase decision or the usage decision about our product, and then seeing what they're saying. I think Kashif quoted an example of Dolan's yesterday, and that was a case of social listening happening. Who Kashif is doesn't really matter. And I think somebody tried to sort of negate it, saying, oh, you are a big marketeer, so that's why they responded back to you. But you could be anyone. A brand needs to respond back to you when you're putting out a social message out there. I think that's what Salma is talking about. And that's, I think, a brand's duty in today's day and age. But Ijaz, you tell me, you've worked with brands for the longest time, and you've been like trying to sort of push digital as a platform with them. And I know you've had good experiences, bad experiences, good times, bad times. And first and foremost, how integral do you think is social listening for brands in today's day and age, in this whole real-time environment of conversations happening around them, about them, sorry.
Right. Thank you, Samra. And I think it's important to talk about listening because primarily because listening hardly everyone ever talks about. We talk about talking a lot. We talk about communication, and that's primarily because we are in the business of communicating. Marketeers have traditionally been custodians of talking, advertising, communication, putting billboards, TVCs, all sorts of things. So we never really evolved into this, into the habit of listening. And even on a human level, I mean, I think listening obviously is hard. Talking is easier. So it just comes so natural. But listening is much more important, if you allow me to say it, because by listening, you can reveal a lot of stuff about, not just about your brand, but also about your competition, also about the lifestyle about your users, and not just when they talk about you. So if I'm Warid, or I'm, if I'm Warid, or I'm Dolan, so whatever, I don't have to just listen about what people are saying about me, and not just not just on the own media that I own. Whether it's Facebook, blogs, websites, and stuff. And you will find a lot of value into when you start listening on other platforms that you don't own. So that's your own media outside your own, media, and not just about when people are talking about you. When people are talking about your competition, when people are talking about things that matter to them, and you somehow can complement that in one way or another. And that's I think very, very important. And by having this habit of listening, let me just put that up front as well, that listening as much as it is hard, it is becoming much harder thanks to the, so much diversity that's not just in Pakistan, but pretty much throughout the world. Even if you just pick up this city of Karachi, you'll see lots of people from different social classes as well as linguistic backgrounds. So it becomes difficult. Most of the tools, and most of the tools by tools I don't mean just Google or some of the free tools. Even some of the top line tools are highly ineffective when it comes to listening about your product or about the lifestyle that people have. And primarily because, again, language is such a big deal for computer algorithms. Artificial intelligence hasn't gone to a point where a system could be able to decipher most of the linguistic nuances, and that's why you see all of these products such as Siri, Google Voice, Samsung Voice. They're terrible. But should that mean they should stop existing? No, they shouldn't stop exist. But there's a need to improve these products. There's a need to improve and inculcate the habit of listening. And once you start listening about these things, the analyzing and the analytics part become even more important. So you have all of this data about what people are talking about, not Warid, but about 4G. What can I take away from those conversations?
And I'm going to ask you this question over here. Sorry, I'm cutting you.
Yeah.
But aren't brands scared of two-way conversations?
Absolutely, absolutely. They are absolutely scared. And as much as it is sad, it is the reality that even today, actually day before yesterday, I heard in one of the meetings by one of the large financial institutions where they said, you know what, it's great to be on social media and digital media, but what if people started saying bad things? And I paused for a while, and he was looking for an answer, and I said, you're really looking for an answer right now in 2014? The thing is, and I didn't want to, I didn't spend too much time, and I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining that again here as well, is even if you are not part of the conversation will go on. It's your choice to be part of that conversation and give your point of view or not. If I'm bashing someone today, if I'm saying something negative about you or an organization or a country or something, if that entity is not present or is not be able to listen to me and respond back to me, it's their loss, not mine. That conversation is going on. So you want to shy away from taking part into a conversation just because it's a negative conversation. Well, the conversation will still go on. The least you could do is be present there and give your alternative point of view and then analyze. And that's the missed opportunity that you could have used for your own advantage. And there are tons of examples where and Karachi Electric, for example, we love to talk negative about Karachi Electric, and they started taking this into their hands, and they said, okay, enough is enough. Sure, there are some shortcomings that we have, but things are not as bad as they seem to the general audience. And when they started replying, when they started listening about things, all the grievances that people have about electricity, load shedding, and stuff like that, they started first listening and then responding to all those queries, and it became such a big deal that Express Tribune later on covered it as one of the hallmarks of the last summer. I can remember. I don't remember any other big brands doing fancy things out there, but Karachi Electric, and I think I give good points to them for not just doing good communication, but doing an excellent job at listening, analyzing all the tweets and messages that people had, and took that opportunity for their own advantage. And I think that's really, really important.
I think Faisal wants to add something to
this.
Yeah,
your
point.
question, that should brands be afraid of conversations, right, actually comes to the fact that brands which deliver on the consumer promise never need to be afraid of anything. It's the brands that are not delivering, that promise something and fall short, that really need to be concerned about what people think about it. Now we know what people think about your brand because they talk about it. They talk about it in the public space. Look around you and look at the number of brands that you have adopted or you have rejected because there was a social reference. Your friends, people you trust, right? Talk about something, you pick it up. They say they've had a bad experience, you put it away. Look at sites like Foodie, right? No restaurant in Karachi today can afford to fall short on service because you'll turn up on that as an update and traffic will go away, right? Your customers will go away. So listening is important. There's a simple illustration I'd like to make here. We launched a campaign about 2 years ago for education reform. It's called Zara Sochiye. And my team was handling the social media side of it. We created a social presence for it. Initially, there was negativity, right? I still remember one teacher from Khairpur, right, who posted the first negative comment. We could have chosen to ignore it, we could have chosen to delete it, but we didn't, right? We started talking to him. We now have 300,000 people on that particular page. Most of the conversation there is pretty positive. That one teacher from Khairpur who was negative is one of our biggest ambassadors today, right? So that's what social listening does.
Yeah, I think the key is also, and especially like, big brands like the Pepsis of this world and the Cokes of this world, they might be doing it internationally anyways, and they're pushing their local teams to do these kind of things. But we should take examples from the SME industry in Pakistan, especially like those aunties sitting at home who started making those Facebook pages and are now thriving with selling their cakes and bakery goods and their khana, or those women who, because 5 years ago or 10 years ago, like maybe when we were studying, back in the day, if you are a woman and you have kids, you have no choice as a profession but to become a teacher or just continue raising your kids and feel so depressed or bad about it. But now you can be a home entrepreneur or a small or medium business owner and be very happy about it, running a parallel business while taking care of being the homemaker, because that's the kind of societal background or consumer background as women we have. And I think you have some examples that you wanted to give about small and medium enterprises that are moving and using social listening and using real-time marketing to their advantage, actually.
Okay. Let me just start off with where Faisal left, that is talking about how brands are listening to the customers. I have had a few experiences. I will just quickly go across them. I was coming back from Dubai a month back, and the Emirates flight was half an hour late, 45 minutes. I think an hour late, sorry. And I wrote it on social media, and I hashtagged Emirates and Emirates Karachi and Emirates Dubai and Terminal 3 and all that stuff. Within 3 days, I got a call from Emirates, and they said that your next travel is free, and they gave me discounts and everything. I actually did not take it because my intention wasn't to, to get the discounts. The intention was to make my voice heard. And that is something that I said in the initial phase, that where customers feeling powerful, customers would want that medium to be there forever. Another example that I have in my mind is once I went to Arizona, and those who love Arizona, this would be a yuck example for them. I went to the Shahid Milad outlet, and I had a bee in my starters. So again, I went off and I posted the picture on social media, I tweeted and I posted on Karachi Snob and all. Their sales actually went down to a level that the owner of that branch had to call me within a week that kindly remove this post. We'll offer you a discount and all that stuff. They're ready to do that. And a lot of customers today actually do these kind of things to get discounts and free stuff and all that. But there is a bleak minority, people like me, who actually do these kind of things to make their voice heard. And that is how brands will prosper in the future once they start listening to the customer. Currently, few brands are doing, but tomorrow all brands have to do it. Now coming back to the SME point that Samra just asked, a lot of SMEs, like I mentioned the example of Shahzeb to start off with, Kafila, I'm pretty much sure you guys would have heard of it, and there are zillions of other brands. If you go to website, an intermediary, I'm sure you guys must have heard of Food Panda. If you go to a website like Food Panda, you'll come across tons of brands that you don't know otherwise. Like Kafila, for example, XYZ Kitchen, XYZ Burger. These are sort of brands that don't exist otherwise, but only exist on social media. MYOB, Make Your Own Burger, was a prime example for it. The Burger Factory, recently they have started advertising. But these are all classical examples of SMEs, how they have bloomed and prospered, how they have created a brand and how they have leveraged the power of social media. That is the power of brand, that is the power of consumers basically. Today, over the past 5-7 years, KFC sales has drastically gone down. other than their management and admin issues, it has been the customer who has gained the voice. Previously, whatever KFC would give, we would have it. It would be a heavy burger. Today, if we go to KFC, we're probably unable to complete the whole burger. But if we go to the competing brands, we like that burger. And there are a lot of burger brands today. So that is the power of customer. That is the power of social media. People posting here and there. Viral marketing, viral e-word of mouth is one of the classic examples what social media does to you. And big brands tend to buy the bloggers as well, with due respect. They do buy bloggers who over a period of time write good comments. Now, I don't want to dishearten people who use GSM Arena, but if you go to GSM Arena and you have got that kind of a mindset, you can actually understand the blogs that are coming, the opinions that are coming from bloggers, not from an actual customer.
Yeah, but I'm going to correct you over here. That concept is known as brand advocacy. Okay?
See, brand,
and that is where you get paid bloggers on board to write about you.
Yes.
So let's stick to that. Because we're short of time, and I know Miss Yasmin is giving me like the most dirty looks from there for letting everyone go on. And Salma, I completely feel you for last year now. So I'm going to throw a question here, but meanwhile I'm going to ask the people around to get up with your questions or comments, so that we can have a little bit of a on-forum discussion going. But before that, like the biggest argument we have, Ijaz, and I'm throwing this to you the first, and Faisal, I would also want you and Salma, maybe you to also comment on it, is that the biggest argument brands have as marketeers we have, and we're very proud of it, is like, you know, ROI kya hai? ठीक है ना? So Google Analytics वगैरह हमें समझ नहीं आते, and tell us an ROI of social media. ये real-time marketing, what is the ROI? What is the bottom line? What are the analytics? What are the measures? Yes, everyone now understands Google Analytics, and a little bit of Facebook shares पे भी नजर आ जाता है कि 2,734 people saw this post. So a little bit of that is understood, but beyond that, the real ROI of a digital or a real-time marketing initiative, what is that? How do we? Does it even exist? Because like Tahir Saab was yesterday saying there's no case studies, there's nothing. So like really, let's just put it under the table and move on, let's run our TVC going. So is that how it should be? Because there's absolutely no ROI, or is there actually measures and things out there and that people are just unaware, or people choose to be unaware about them because it's just convenient rather than learning or relearning?
So I'll start with an example. So you're a SME, you want to take on to one of the MNCs of Pakistan, and you say, okay, I'm doing the sales in 10 cities. I want to increase that to 35 cities. I don't know anything about supply management. I don't know much about logistics. I don't know much about economies of scale, but I want to do it. And I don't want to learn about all of these things. Can anyone tell me, is that possible without learning all of these things, without achieving economies of scale in this era, when you want to compete with, a big multinational? You can't, right? You have to understand, you have to learn, and you have to improve that. You have to improve your logistics, supply management, your inventory management in order to be efficient at whatever you are doing. The same goes for digital. If you don't understand analytics, well, it's your loss. You cannot, even when we started, I think for the last 2 years, brands started talking about analytics, and by saying analytics, we primarily meant Google Analytics, which is great. It's free. It's for everybody. But unfortunately, the problem is Google Analytics is not for everybody. It's not for, let's say, a video content. It's pretty terrible, I would say, on measuring stuff like, how many times the video was played, how many times people were actually viewing the video. When they paused the video, what is it that they did? Facebook eventually looked at this and they said, okay, there is a lot of shortcomings. So we have to look at when people share something, or when people click on one of the stuff that someone has shared, they go to a website, whether it was Upworthy, Dawn, Tribune, or whatever. They went to that website and they didn't come back. Why they didn't come back? And that analyzing part was what enabled Facebook to improve their algorithms by saying, if people don't come back too quickly after clicking on a link within the newsfeed, it means they are finding that content newsworthy, read-worthy. So that's how they improved. They had to go beyond the simple analytics, and without understanding the data mining techniques, whether you're a technical person or not, well, I'm sorry to say, that is your job. Even if you're a marketeer, even if you're a financial advisor, well, you still have, either you hire someone, and that's why one of my biggest gripes about, about agencies as well as the brands, that they talk about different areas that this digital medium is spiraling like a weed, but they're not able to, take into account that while this is growing, they have to invest into different areas of expertise, such as analytics, such as customization. We didn't even talk about customizations, web customization as part of the real-time marketing, which actually for Amazon not just made it popular. They pretty much mastered, and they are the gurus of the world when it comes to real-time marketing. And in 2006, they did it, and not just that, airlines quickly followed up with that. And they said, anytime someone is visiting an airline website and he comes back again, and then again 2 days later, we will jack up the prices to a certain price points. Because they could see that this person is so interested in Emirates, Etihad, or whatever airline website they are on at, that the airline could actually charge premium on those revisits.
I'm actually going to add a little bit because of my airline experience over here, that there was a study done by, I think, IATA or someone on online airline purchase decision-making process, and it's learned that any airline ticket buyer online actually makes 5 visits to your website before they make a purchase decision. So because of that, they set up cookies at the back end that if it's like by the 4th visit or the 5th visit, which is the key purchase decision-making time, the prices, the lower fares don't show. So it's all possible. Technically, it's possible, and data-wise, it's possible.
Samra, did you hear about the hotels that charge more if you're using an Apple product to log into their website versus?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, pretty interesting kind of differentiation. So I'm going to take just very quickly to answer her ROI comment, because my perspective on this is very, very different from most of the traditional thoughts on ROI. So in content marketing, we first define what our goal is, right? Typically, the goal is not necessarily to have sales, even though sales is an indirect result of content marketing. I have a client. He's one of the top HR leaders in this country right now. His goal with marketing is to become a New York Times best-selling author, right? That's a goal. We've identified timeframes. We've identified what he needs to do to get there. We've identified case studies of different paths authors in his field have taken to achieve that level, right? Now, just yesterday, we were getting all excited because his website got like 200% more hits because one of the articles that we were working on with him was featured on Monster.com. And Monster.com is one of the premier portals of HR. So it was in his field. It got picked up by the right people because of all the promotional and content efforts that we had done 5 months on from this point backwards. And so as far as my client and I are concerned, that really essentially is the ROI for us, right? The smaller milestones to get to the bigger milestones. So every milestone is a reflection on the return on the effort that we're putting in. It's not going to translate into sales right away, but it's going to translate into the things that he wants, which is to be known as an authority in his field, to be considered as an expert by his peers and others, and to be a leader and a speaker on that particular topic that is getting so much traction right now. So as far as we're concerned, we're on track with the ROI. It's a very unconventional way to measure it, but that's how I think that a lot of businesses can do it. And on the flip side, I've worked with agencies and companies who have given us a target of get us 1 million likes in 1 year. There's a way to do that, and there's a bad way to do that. One of the bad ways to do it is to have promotions running for just about everything and to just, have like gift vouchers and whatever, free giveaways and give away an iPad, whatever, you're going to get your 1 million likes. You're going to give away an iPad every week, you're going to get those 1 million likes. But are those 1 million people invested in your brand? Is that what you want? That's really up to you.
That made me think of 14 Street Pizza, the 1 million likes.
So it really depends on the goal that you start with when you think about ROI.
Yeah. 2 questions because I like my life.
May I want to throw a question to the audience. We're running short of time. We're supposed to finish at 1 o'clock. So if we finish at 1, we can only have 2 questions like Samra says. Otherwise, we can extend it for another 15, 20 minutes. Right? They need to be asked if they are willing. Okay? So I think we'll take questions for the next 20 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm glad we're at least having a conversation that's interesting all of you. So the mics are on the floor. Please raise your hand so the kind ladies in green can come with the mic to you. It could be a comment or it could be a question. And if you don't have questions, we have enough over here. We have enough comments and conversations here. Please raise your hand so that we can see you. Or just stand up, like, if you have a question. Don't stand up if you're exiting because that would kind of not be good.
Okay, no, yeah. My question is towards, yes, my name is Naira Rahman. My question is towards...
Can you be a little more louder or can everyone else please just not talk?
Yeah. I'm an MBA student at IBA. My question is towards the conversation on empowering the customer. What I would like to ask is it such a good idea to give so much power to the customer? Are you not changing his motivation to consume? For example, if everybody goes to Arizona Grill to find out or to just discover a bee in their soup, even if that bee is not there, it will eventually start showing up if they have to give free giveaways.
Okay, I'm going to ask, just repeat your question so that we can be sure that we understood you correctly. You're asking us about that being on this real-time marketing, we're talking about giving power to the customer. Are we not empowering the customer way too much? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
And, also, to follow up with that, how can we measure the authenticity and credibility of customer response since the mass audience is so large and anonymous?
Okay. So there are 2 sets of questions. So how do we measure an anonymity of a customer in retrospect, and then what are we empowering the customer too much? Would you like to take the empowering part of the question? Okay. And maybe the measurement part, Ijaz, you can answer.
It's actually a very thin kind of a belief to think that customer is not empowered. Customer is empowered. So it's just about the medium that the customer is getting. Customer has got enough power to get the whole Egyptian regime down using social media. Honestly, that's what has happened. Okay, Egyptian regime, whatever. I'm not going into the causes and pros and cons of it, but a major role. If you have read the book, The New Digital Age, you will come across this fact that a major role played in that downslide was by social media. Customer already has the power. Customer has been doing that over the past ages. But only the time span in which you could hear the customer is as far from me as probably Salma or probably Ijaz. Okay? But conventionally, there was a lot of gap. There was a wall between. Okay? Still the customer is very close to me. There was a wall. Now that wall has been removed. Now he's still that, as in the distance is still the same. So customer always had the power. It's just that now we are giving them a medium to use that. And why we're doing that? Because we want to hear the customer. And why we want to hear the customer is because we want to know what's wrong with this. And why do they prefer Aquafina over Kinley's? The basic brand marketing question. Why is one brand preferred over the other? Previously we used to have researches, surveys and everything to do that. Now the customer is right in front of us and we ask them. That's about the empowerment.
Okay, the second question was about anonymity and authenticity of users. So we look at, at our agency, we look at Google Analytics as I talk about. So Google Analytics is pretty good at just the anonymized data about, number of users are coming, where they're coming from, how much time they're spending and stuff like that. when it comes to deeper understanding of these users and getting that layer of authenticity and credibility and understanding more about their impulses and whether they are really doing something and what is it that they're doing. So we use different other tools. Some of them we have in-house, some of them we purchase. So one of the two of the tools I really want to talk about is ClickTail, and their logo, their tagline is "Every click has a tail." And through that tool, we were able to see how people are using the website in form of a video. So what this analytics service does is it creates a video session of that particular user. So where that mouse is going, how much time he or she actually hovered over a drop down, and that's where actually we wanted to take away all of that control that traditionally the creative directors or the brand managers and the agencies had that control, and took that control away from them and put that in, give them to the users through these analytics softwares or services. And through that, we are able to see whether that fancy JavaScript slider is actually working, whether people are actually going through the fifth slide, whether people are able to view your article through a drop down or through a footer, which ones are working or which ones are not working. So through these things, and that's very actually relevant for real-time marketing. And as I talked about, customizations, you can actually give two different versions of the same service, same website, digital experience, mobile application, or whatever it is, to two different audiences altogether. And it's called since 30 years, software engineering has been using this form of methodology called A/B testing. So you have two different areas, and that's how you test it.
So the customer is not that anonymous anymore, is he?
Well, to the point of the names and the things like that, you don't know. But profiling wise, it is important, and I think it is relevant, and a lot of companies are taking advantage of a lot of data that you are already
So what I understand
creating.
from Ijaz's answer, that actually instead of being more anonymous, you know more about the customer now, and you can actually tailor your communication to them than you did before when real-time conversations were not available. Do we have another question? Or
there's a question here.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing about any laws, rules, regulations pertaining to posting on the social websites, and if anybody can just get up and say anything, do firms have a recourse against that? Somebody does bad mouthing, gives bad, maybe true or not. Who will decide whether it's true or not?
Okay.
And what they can do about it.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat your question and I'm going to pass it on to Faisal, that he's basically asking about the laws that exist and the legal system for going out there. So I can't just go and blog about someone or put a tweet out there saying, oh, they're bad with 50 abusers. So
there are two aspects to that. One is the social platforms themselves. By nature, these social platforms are designed for people to be open about themselves, to basically tell you who they are, to tell you a lot more than you would find out from any other medium. Right? Just look at the Facebook profile or look at a Twitter profile, right? And you get a fair idea of how much you have to reveal. If you do not reveal who you are, it doesn't work. Fake accounts don't have good legs. They don't travel much. That's one part of it. The social platforms themselves have the process built in. We know it because we are facing a lot of abuse, right? So we have to deal with it. And it's a question of what you find offensive, what you find negative, and how you want to deal with it. I mentioned to you the example of one particular individual who responded negatively. By engaging with him, right, we were able to turn him around. At times, the purpose is to be negative, right? So you have the opportunity, you can hide the post, you can delete it, or you can report it. And that particular user, right, normally gets their account blocked. That's one aspect. The other aspect is fake accounts. At this point in time, Twitter has a fake account of Jung, right? The Jung account, @Jung, is not with us, right? Somebody registered it before we did. Now, there's a process for removing that, right? There's a process that Twitter offers, and we have to follow that process. We have to establish our copyright, our trademark, provide proof, and then that account is closed. Same thing happened with Geo News. Somebody was holding that account. Somebody well-known was holding that account and was not willing to give it up, wanted money in return. He was squatting. So we had to go through a process to remove them. There is now growing awareness that these social platforms need better laws. Defamation, libel, slander, all those. They apply. They apply just as they do in the real world. An argument can be taken and saying, well, a conversation on a social platform is like conversation in a coffee shop. But in proximity, if somebody is sitting with you and finds it offensive, right, it is reported. And what does the proprietor of the coffee shop do? Ask the offensive party to leave. So it's more or less functioning in the same way. There is a need, especially in Pakistan, we've been looking at the draft law that has been put together to police or to at least bring some sanity to social platforms, to digital platforms, and say who can post, how can they post, what is the manner in which they can post, how can they be removed, how can they be persecuted. I mean, yesterday, an SMS went around on one particular network, and it was masked. Masked means you couldn't see the number from where this SMS was coming from, right? So I was asked to find out, and it's very simple. Again, the process is very simple. You go back to the telecom, you report the offensive spam. They have to investigate it because PTA requires them to investigate it. They have to identify which number that spam is coming from, even on the mobile. Most spam comes to your mobile, right? Not to other mediums, simply because the mobile is most prevalent with you.
I'm not talking about spam. It's one disgruntled customer, and it may be his individual experience. But he puts it on Twitter, and everybody gets the bad news about the company. What can company do about it?
The company can respond, and that's what good companies do. Good companies have a good story to tell. One disgruntled customer may have a reason, maybe his own individual experience, but he or she has the right to bring that experience out. And in most cases, when a brand responds positively, that experience, simply because you've been addressed, you've been answered, right, it works. Companies used to go through a lot of trouble creating that engagement. Now that engagement is simpler, right? So our view is you don't need to be afraid of it. You need to be able to get into that space and converse. The more you converse with your customer, the better relationship you will build.
Thank you.
Just adding on, and maybe not a question, maybe just a statement, that actually when we are talking about marketing in real time, our social media networks are really underutilized, in the sense that they don't seem to be doing much in terms of creating the marketing that we have. For example, when we have an event somewhere, or when we are going on to the let's say the television advertising, etc. We have had some case studies where we see that they are using both platforms, something happening on the social media, or social media just simply creating awareness about an event that's happening. And that's when this becomes more important, when you are having, for example, some sort of quizzes or some racing events, when it's cars that you are selling, or something that's happening outside, and and social media is part of that activity. And the way that you create a buzz through it, I mean, I don't think that we are doing anything like that. I don't see anything happening in Pakistan. The way that we have in our case studies, we are teaching, so we have a lot of case studies, and we've got these videos of cases where we show what Nike had done and what, for example, Volkswagen had done, and other brands. And I think that is where we can use this particular media, and consumers are very happy to get involved, even for a little gift pack of only tea bags and a mug. I mean, they are still willing to take part in small quizzes, etc. So, but we are not really doing much of that. I mean, what is the problem? Why don't we go right ahead and do something like that? Why don't we take advantage of these websites?
If it's okay with you guys.
Yeah,
I think Salma, you would be a good person to answer this comment.
Thanks. All right, so how many of you go to Espresso, the coffee shop? All right, great. How many of you check in when you go there?
For the free cookie.
What do you get? All right, great. So Espresso started this tradition, I think, during election time last year.
Yeah.
Where and all the brands on social media, at least all the ones that I follow, they were all having some kind of graphics, some kind of stuff happening, some kind of promotion related to election time, right? So you can use that as a case study. See which ones work, right? Yeah, but all right. Give you another example. Cricket matches. Every time Twitter goes nuts. I have to actually shut it down because I stopped following cricket.
Yeah, soccer as well now, by the way.
Madness. It's like every brand jumps on. They're championing every score, every ball. It's like if you're interested, and some of them have really funny takes on what's happening. I mean, Nando's does really cute stuff. Espresso again does really cute stuff. There's like these people are starting to get on the ball, and I'm sure as these things develop, we will have a lot of local case studies which will be in place for a few years to actually extract the case study element out of it.
I also would like to maybe just add something over here. That if we look back at the discussion that was yesterday where we were talking about marketing to the millennials, there was this whole bunch of Gen X who's actually marketing to this real-time customer out there, and they're resistant. We could very obviously see that resistant to talking to that customer on that real-time platform. So till the marketeers themselves break that resistance, you will not have those case studies that you're looking for. Till the marketeers open up their mind and say, डिजिटल पे कुछ करना है की जगह डिजिटल पे क्या बेहतरीन हो सकता है, ठीक है, and how can we leverage the platform the best for our brand, and what is our customer all about. Till that happens, you as academics will not get those excellent case studies that you're looking for. And maybe this conversation with the conversation that happened yesterday combined could be a great example of where the change needs to happen. You have a comment.
Actually, this kind of an activity happened with Pizza Hut, the one that Dr. Amar is talking about. Few years back, 3 years back, when I was associated with Pizza Hut and we started off social media, we had this gaming concept altogether, which was scavenger hunt. So we had multiple levels of it. First, you play a game online, then you go to the restaurant, do something, then, roam about different restaurants, get some activity out of it. So these kind of activities do happen, but very rarely. Only because the customer is not willing to engage so much. Because the customer is not wanting to involve themselves in such a long-term activity. If it's a small activity, just a jigsaw or something, the customer would be, very much willing to do that. But that does not add a lot of value to the brand.
See,
it would only,
but I'm just going to go back to an example Faisal gave earlier about geosports, and that's where the customer is engaged with the brand. It's how you engage the brand. It's not about just the games. It's the conversations you keep on having on a repeated level with the brand. And Faisal, correct me if I'm wrong over here. That
yeah, it is about how you engage and why you want to engage, and where you want to take that engagement. Yeah. If that engagement is to lead to enhance sales in a certain period, or to enter a new geographical market, or to protect your brand from any kind of negative that is coming through, so it's the purpose. Is why you want to engage. Another thing I want to share on this score was that, look at the opportunities that are opening up. I'm going to give you a real-time example of a company in Lahore. I met them at a workshop in an incubator, the Plan 9 incubator. A young guy who lived in Sahiwal, right, got married last year and came to Lahore twice to watch a movie with his young wife. Both times he couldn't get a ticket because there was no way for him to actually book and secure a ticket before he left Sahiwal. So he decided, he's a tech-savvy person, was running a small little software company in Sahiwal. So he decided to launch an application through which you can book tickets in the movies. In Karachi, you still can't do it. In Lahore, you can now, on your mobile, buy a ticket to a cinema, right, and go there knowing that you already have a ticket. He sold 10% of tickets for Rio 2 in Lahore, right? So it's all happening. It's a question of where you want to take it. The opportunity is there, the landscape is there, the ecosystem is developing. If Samra was telling me, I missed the panel discussion yesterday because I had other things to handle. I mean, to say that television is cheap or economical is not the truth, right? Look at the SMEs, look at the mushrooming SMEs. What medium do they find? And I'm not just talking about Pakistan. Google's whole, business model is predicated on the small business, not on the large one, right? Their discovery is about the small business. I want to be discovered. I don't have the means to go up, put a big storefront, to create a lot of noise through traditional media. I have to be smarter and do it. Digital mediums allow you to be smarter and achieve the same results. How much money has Google spent to become the brand that it is? Not much, right? It is basically by word of mouth. I first heard of Google in somewhere around 1999, right? And ever since, it's the one thing that you give me a laptop, the first thing I'll do is make a default in terms of search. So it's about what you do with the digital medium. And again, I keep going back to mobiles. If you want to think digital, think mobile, right? That's where it's all going to be. Small little, as an example, I mean, I was in England at the time, and Sky, which is a broadcaster, right, had this fantastic thing running, because there's a two-way path. You cannot get a Sky box unless you have a telephone line, right? So there is a conversation path there, or there is a response path there. And the example was of a young couple that was expecting their first child. As normally happens, the man wasn't so sensitive to what his wife was going through, right? He was pretty blasé about it. So in about her 6 months, she complained to him and said, "You do not have the same stake in this child that I'm carrying that I do." So he sat down and he thought he's got to do something about it. First thing, he goes to Google and searches for things that you can buy for your child, right? So he looks at a crib, he looks at other things. He's left a digital footprint. Now his digital footprint, when he goes and switches on his Sky box, it recognizes him, right? And he starts to search. So a screen pops up and says, there's a program on parenting at this time, right? So he decides that, he's going to be a good father, and he favorites it and say, I'm going to watch this one. At the time that program comes on, he's watching it, an ad pops up and says, here is a little crib that you can buy. He's got his remote in his hand, he's got his bank account linked, so he just presses the red button and he buys. Now that's real-time marketing. Right? Started with a conversation offline, right? Ended up with a purchase decision. So that's what real-time marketing is all about. It's not just about, saying I'll create a website and I'll hope somebody will come there and they will like something and they will buy something. Right? It's about a holistic experience. Take traditional media, marry it to your digital presence also. You will know your customer better. You will know how to market to them better.
Are there any other questions? Or we're good for the day? Thank you so much. Nutshell, I guess, of the evening is that we need to understand the audience. We need to understand where they are. Numbers, analytics are all out there. We just need to make an effort and look for them. ROI is definitely there, but the future, the conversation is happening. Whether you as a brand and as a marketer wants to jump onto that conversation or not and take advantage of it is your call. Thank you, everyone. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you for the insightful discussion, and thank you, Ms. Samra, for moderating it so well. I would like to invite Dr. Nishat to please come on stage to present the token of thanks. Dr. Nishat is the Associate Dean for IBA and the Professor for Economics and Finance here. So please. Mr. Faisal Sharjan, please come ahead. Mr. Najat Rahman. Ms. Salma Jaffrey. Mr. Ejaz Asi. And Mr. Muntazir Haider. So we'll give you your plaque. You could give this one. Thank you so much, sir. And Ms. Samra Muslim. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for the discussion. We'll now be having a short lunch break, and we'll be resuming back at 2:30 sharp. The lunch is being served outside in the lawn, outside the auditorium. Students are requested to take the back gate. Thank you.